The chandeliers of the Peachtree Grand Hotel sparkled above Atlanta's wealthiest figures, casting golden light over polished marble floors as powerful men and women mingled. Imani Carter stood quietly at the edge of the ballroom, clutching her speech notes with trembling hands. At only 20 years old, she was the youngest person in a room filled with CEOs, politicians and socialites dressed in glittering gowns, people who could change the future of entire neighborhoods with a single donation. She whispered to herself that she could do this, smoothing the simple black dress she wore, a sharp contrast to the vibrant couture swirling around her. Monica Allen, the event organizer, approached with a smile, reminding her that she was on in 5 minutes and that everyone was eager to hear about New Dawn Foundation. Imani nodded, her deep brown eyes scanning the crowd. After losing her parents in a car accident at 16, she had been raised by her grandparents in Atlanta's West End. She turned her grief into purpose, earned a scholarship to Howard University, and at 18 founded New Dawn. Now, just 2 years later, she was about to face Atlanta's elite and fight for children who grew up like her. Across the ballroom, Malik Johnson leaned against a marble column, listening half-heartedly to dull conversations about money and vacation homes. At 26, as heir to his father's vast tech empire, he was no stranger to these gatherings. Yet tonight something felt different, as though something or someone was missing from his carefully constructed world. Monica's voice rang through the microphone, introducing the founder of New Dawn Foundation, Ms. Imani Carter. Applause filled the room as Imani walked to the podium with her chin high and determination battling the nervous flutter in her chest. She looked over the audience, searching for a reason to believe these people would care about kids in struggling neighborhoods. Her voice was clear as she began, recalling the night her life changed 3 years ago when she lost her parents. She told them about her grandparents, about the hunger and hardship, about the choice she made to rise instead of sink into bitterness. Her words grew stronger as she declared that New Dawn wasn't just about tutoring, but about proving that a child's zip code does not decide their destiny. She demanded to be heard, to be seen, and to have their investment in a better future. The applause that followed was real and thunderous, but exhaustion tugged at her body. She had been running on only a few hours of sleep, balancing college, work, and the foundation. As she stepped down, her vision blurred, her knees wavered, and she clutched the side of the stage. A warm voice cut through the haze, asking if she was all right, and a steady hand caught her arm. She looked up into the face of a tall man with deep brown skin, sharp eyes, and genuine concern. He guided her to a chair with gentle firmness and asked when she had last eaten. She blinked and admitted that it had been in the morning. He frowned, incredulous that she had gone all day without food, and quickly called for water and appetizers. Introducing himself as Malik Johnson, he watched her carefully, but she barely processed the weight of his name, too focused on calming her nerves. She introduced herself, thanking him softly, only for him to interrupt with praise for her speech, telling her it was the most honest and powerful thing he had ever heard at an event like this. His tone was sincere, his eyes free of condescension. He looked at her as though she mattered. She whispered her thanks, taking the glass of water he offered, and listened as he asked her to tell him about New Dawn. So she shared her story, her grandparents' wisdom, the kids who reminded her why she never gave up, the dreams that kept her fighting when statistics said she would fail. Malik listened intently, asking questions that showed he was truly hearing her. She studied him in the soft light and told him he wasn't what she expected, that most rich kids were entitled. He chuckled, admitting he was entitled but had learned to hide it, and then told her that what she had spoken was real. Their eyes locked, and in that moment something shifted, subtle yet powerful, as if a key had turned inside both of them, unlocking a connection neither of them had expected. The following Monday, Imani sat in her advanced social policy class at Howard University, still distracted by thoughts of the man she had met at the gala. The memory of Malik Johnson lingered like a song she couldn't get out of her head. She had left the ballroom that night without asking for his number, and now she wondered if their conversation had meant as much to him as it had to her. "Miss Carter," Professor Daniels called, pulling her back to the present. "Can you elaborate on the challenges facing new nonprofits in building sustainable funding?" Imani straightened in her seat, grateful for a question she could answer easily. "The biggest challenge is balancing credibility with innovation. Donors want organizations with proven track records, but fresh solutions often come from groups that haven't had time to establish one yet. The professor nodded approvingly. And how might an organization like yours bridge that gap? Partnerships, she replied without hesitation. Collaborating with established institutions, securing co-investments, and building mentorship ties rather than trying to prove everything alone. Her classmates scribbled notes, and the professor moved on, but Imani caught her best friend Tay Brown watching her from the next row with an arched eyebrow. After class, he fell into step beside her. You've been distracted all morning. What's going on? Nothing, she said quickly, then sighed at the lie. Okay, something. But I don't know if it's even real. That's the most confusing answer I've ever heard, Tay teased as they headed toward the campus cafe. She finally told him about the gala, about the man who had steadied her when she almost fainted, about how different he had seemed compared to everyone else in that room. He listened to me, Tay, like he actually cared about what I was saying, not just how it made him look. Tay gave her a sly grin. Did you at least get his number? No, I was too busy trying not to pass out from exhaustion. And he's probably just another trust fund kid being polite. Or maybe, Tay said, his voice softer, he meant every word, and you made an impression too. Meanwhile, across town in a towering glass skyscraper, Malik Johnson sat in his father's office pretending to listen to another lecture about quarterly reports and international expansion. Richard Johnson, CEO of Johnson Technologies, stood tall behind his massive desk, his silver-streaked hair as sharp as his tone. Revenue is up 12%. The software launch exceeded projections. Why do I feel like you're not paying attention? I am, Malik said flatly. Revenue's up. Expansion in Asia, the usual. Richard narrowed his eyes. Your attitude is the problem. You've seemed distracted lately. Malik thought of Imani, of her fire, her honesty, her passion, and for once he didn't care if he sounded careless. I met someone interesting. Richard's expression shifted. Vanessa Brooks was at the gala. Her father said you two enjoyed a nice conversation. Not Vanessa, Malik said quickly. Someone else. A young woman named Imani Carter. She runs a nonprofit called New Dawn. The warmth in Richard's face disappeared. The girl who gave that speech? She's a child, Malik, 20 years old. You're 26 with responsibilities to this company and this family. You can't afford distractions from some college girl pretending to run a charity. It's not pretending. She's helping kids who actually need it, Malik shot back. And that's admirable, but Vanessa is a suitable match. She understands our world. The conversation ended when Richard's assistant announced his next meeting, but Malik left with determination written across his face. He was not ready to let go of Imani. That evening, while Imani worked late in the cramped office of New Dawn, a small space inside a community center she could barely afford, her phone buzzed. The number was unfamiliar. This is Malik from Saturday night. I hope you don't mind. Monica gave me your number. Would you like to have coffee sometime? Imani stared at the message, her heart racing. He had found her. That meant he had truly wanted to see her again. She typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, "Coffee sounds nice." When, his reply came almost instantly. "Tomorrow, near Howard. Does that work? Perfect. Send me the address," she wrote, biting her lip as butterflies swirled in her stomach. The next afternoon, Imani walked into a small cafe near campus and spotted Malik already waiting. He stood when he saw her, dressed in dark jeans and a gray sweater that made his eyes seem even deeper. "You came," he said with a smile that was almost surprised. "Did you think I wouldn't?" she teased. "I thought you might Google me and decide I wasn't worth it." "Should I have Googled you?" His laugh was rough but genuine. "Probably. My father owns Johnson Technologies. We're not exactly known for humanitarian efforts." The name clicked, and for a moment intimidation brushed over her. Johnson Technologies controlled half the systems running Atlanta's infrastructure, but she pushed the thought aside. "So you're rich. I figured that from the gala. The question is, are you interesting?" This time his laughter was warm, real. "I hope so, but I'd rather you tell me." 2 hours passed as they talked, their coffee long gone cold. Malik told her about the weight of his father's expectations, about feeling like he was playing a role in a story that wasn't his. Imani shared the challenge of being young, female, and from the West End while trying to be taken seriously in boardrooms full of skeptics. "You know what I admire about you?" Malik asked as they stepped outside. "What?" "You built something that matters. Everything I've achieved is because of my last name, but you, everything you've done is all you." Warmth filled her chest as she replied, "Everyone needs help sometimes. The difference is whether you use that help to build something bigger than yourself." On the sidewalk, Malik caught her hand gently. "Can I see you again?" Imani smiled softly. "I'd like that." Neither of them noticed the sleek black car parked across the street or the photographer capturing every moment with a telephoto lens. By morning, whispers would begin spreading across Atlanta's social circles, and their worlds were about to collide in ways neither had prepared for. 3 days later, the whispers turned into headlines. On page 6 of the Atlanta Tribune appeared a photo of Malik Johnson and Imani Carter walking out of the cafe, his hand holding hers, her smile bright and genuine. The headline read, "Tech Heirs College Crush, Spring Fling or Serious Business." Imani sat in her dorm room staring at the article on her laptop, her stomach sinking. They had misreported her age, claiming she was 19. They had called New Dawn a small tutoring service instead of the foundation she had poured her life into. Her phone buzzed nonstop with messages she didn't want to read. Tay knocked on her door and stepped inside without waiting. "Imani, I saw the article." He stopped short when he saw her pale expression. "You've read it already. They're tearing me apart," she said bitterly, reading aloud from the screen. "Sources close to the Johnson family question whether young Miss Carter understands the pressures of dating within Atlanta's elite circles. At barely 19, she may be in over her head. Half of that is a lie, and the rest is none of their business." "Half of it is wrong," Tay corrected gently, sitting beside her. "And the other half doesn't matter." Imani's eyes welled. "Maybe it does. Maybe I am in over my head. Maybe I don't understand what I've stepped into." "Do you like him?" Tay asked. "Yes," she whispered. "Do you think he likes you?" "I thought so, but now I don't know if he knew this would happen, if he was ready for the press, for people tearing me down. There's only one way to find out," Tay said firmly. As if on cue, her phone buzzed again. This time it was Malik. "Can we talk?" "I'm outside your dorm." Her heart pounded as she peered out the window. On the sidewalk below, Malik paced with his hands running through his hair, tension written in every line of his body. "Go," Tay urged softly. "Hear him out." Imani walked downstairs, each step heavy. When she pushed open the dormitory door, Malik turned quickly, relief flooding his face. "Imani, I'm so sorry. I had no idea they were watching us, didn't you?" she asked, folding her arms. "This is your world, Malik. Surely you knew dating the heir to a tech fortune would come with scrutiny." "I hoped. I thought maybe we could stay under the radar for a while, get to know each other without all this noise. Well, that ship has sailed." She held up her phone, the article glaring back at them. "They got my age wrong, made my foundation sound like a joke, and basically labeled me a gold digger." "And this is only the first article, isn't it?" His silence was answer enough. "I can't do this," she burst out, her voice breaking. "My foundation depends on credibility. People have to take me seriously. If I become known as just the tech heirs fling—" "You're not a fling," he interrupted sharply, stepping closer. "What we have is real. I felt it when we talked. I feel it now. Is it real? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my story is being rewritten while I become a footnote in yours." Malik exhaled slowly, choosing his words. "What if I can fix this? How?" she demanded. "I don't know yet, but I will figure it out. Just don't give up on us before we even begin." Imani looked at him, torn between the fire in his eyes and the weight on her shoulders. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to say yes, but she thought about the kids at New Dawn, about the grants waiting for approval, about everything she had fought to build. "I need time," she whispered. He nodded reluctantly, disappointment flickering across his features. "I understand. But no matter what you decide, know this: I meant every word, and meeting you changed something in me. I want more than just what's expected. I want you." That night, Imani sat in her grandparents' small West End apartment. The smell of cornbread and collard greens filled the kitchen as Grandma Ruth stirred the pot, and Grandpa James watched the evening news. "You've been quiet since you got here," Grandma Ruth said softly. "What's weighing on you, child?" Imani trusted her grandmother more than anyone. She set down her fork. "I met someone. And this someone makes you sad?" "No, he makes me happy. That's the problem." "Explain it to me," Ruth said, folding her arms patiently. So Imani told her about Malik, about the gala, the coffee date, and the article. Her grandmother listened without judgment, only nodding now and then. "You're afraid," Ruth said finally. "Of course I'm afraid. I worked so hard to build something real, and now people will think I'm just some girl chasing money." "Are you chasing money?" "No." "Then what does it matter what people think? You know your own heart. The real question is, does this boy know it too?" Imani thought about how Malik had looked at her, about his concern when she almost fainted, about the way he had listened without judgment. Slowly, she admitted, "I think he does." "Then maybe the question isn't whether you can handle his world," Ruth said with a faint smile, "but whether his world can handle a young woman who knows exactly who she is." While Imani wrestled with her fears, Malik was locked in a different battle. In his father's oak-paneled study, the air was thick with tension, as Richard Johnson slammed a folded newspaper on the desk. The front page displayed the photograph of Malik and Imani at the cafe. "This," Richard said sharply, "is exactly what I warned you about." Malik sat across from him, his jaw tight. "She's not what you think, Dad. She's a 20-year-old college girl from the West End. You really believe she's interested in you for anything beyond your last name?" Malik's voice was calm but firm. "Yes, because when she looked at me, she didn't even know my last name. She saw me. Not Johnson Technologies, not your fortune. Just me," Richard scoffed. "You're being naive. This family has responsibilities. Appearances matter. A woman like Vanessa Brooks would be a suitable partner. She understands our world. Vanessa isn't the one I want." Richard leaned forward, his tone like steel. "You're throwing away a future I built for you over some girl who doesn't belong in our circle." The conversation ended without resolution, but Malik left more determined than ever to prove Imani was worth fighting for. That evening, Imani stayed late at the New Dawn Foundation office, her desk cluttered with grant applications and lesson plans. Her phone buzzed again. It was Malik. "Can we talk tomorrow? Coffee again?" Her heart leapt despite everything. She typed back, "Yes, send me the time," but the following day, a storm began brewing that neither of them had expected. In the middle of a budget review, the office door opened and a tall woman in a designer coat stepped inside. She looked wildly out of place among the folding chairs and worn bulletin boards of the community center. Her sharp smile carried more ice than warmth. "You must be Imani," the woman said smoothly. "I'm Vanessa Brooks." Imani rose slowly, recognizing the name. Malik had mentioned her once, a woman from his world. "Can I help you?" "Actually," Vanessa replied, settling into a chair as if she owned the place. "I think I can help you. I know all this attention must feel overwhelming. Dating someone like Malik comes with complications you might not fully understand." Imani's voice was steady. "Someone my age, you mean? Don't take offense. I was young once too. But Malik and I grew up in the same world. We understand the expectations, the responsibilities. What you and he have," she gestured dismissively around the cramped office. "It's sweet, but it isn't sustainable." Imani's fists clenched at her sides, though her voice stayed calm. "Did Malik send you here?" "No, he doesn't know I'm here. I came because I care about him, and because I think you deserve to know what you're really dealing with." She pulled out her phone, scrolling to a set of glossy photographs. They showed Malik at the Whitman Foundation dinner, standing beside Vanessa, looking polished and perfectly at ease. In several pictures, her hand rested possessively on his arm. "He attended with me," Vanessa said softly, "as he has for the past 3 years. Our families have been planning this match since we were teenagers. It's expected." The words hit Imani like a slap. She stared at the photos, her stomach turning cold. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because Malik might be infatuated with you now, but eventually he'll remember who he is and what's expected of him. When that happens, you'll be the one left with a broken heart and a damaged reputation. I'm not the villain here, Imani. I'm trying to save you both from a mistake." When Vanessa left, the office felt colder, emptier. Imani sank into her chair, staring at the photos again. Malik looked so natural in that world, so comfortable beside Vanessa. Maybe Vanessa was right. Maybe she was foolish to believe their worlds could ever fit together. That evening, her phone rang. It was Malik. "Imani, I know you asked for time, but I've been going crazy not talking to you." Her throat tightened. "How was the Whitman dinner?" There was a pause on the line. Then his voice low and guilty. "How did you know about that?" "Vanessa came to see me today." She heard his sharp intake of breath. "Imani, I can explain." "Can you?" Because from where I'm sitting it looks like you've been taking me on coffee dates while keeping your real relationship intact. It's not what you think. Vanessa and I, it's complicated. Our families have been pushing this for years. I go with her because it's easier than fighting every single time, but it doesn't mean anything. It means something to her. And to your father? My father doesn't get to decide who I love, doesn't he? Because from where I stand he's been deciding for years and you've been playing along. You're still showing up at society events with her, still letting the world think she belongs by your side. And me? I look like a side project in the West End. You're not a side project, Malik said, his voice raw. You're the first real thing that's happened to me in years. Imani swallowed hard. Then prove it. Figure out what you want. Because I can't keep giving my heart to someone who's only halfway here. She ended the call before he could answer and turned off her phone, afraid she would call him back. 2 days passed in silence. Imani buried herself in work at New Dawn Foundation, reviewing budgets, chasing grants, and ignoring the ache in her chest. Malik, meanwhile, attended board meetings, charity luncheons, and endless dinners, playing the role of the polished heir, though inside he felt hollow. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. Late one night, Malik appeared at the doorway of the foundation office. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his clothes wrinkled, his eyes tired. "Your phone's been off," he said quietly. "I know. Can we talk?" Imani gestured toward the folding chair across from her desk. "You're here, talk." He sat, his gaze sweeping over the room, the children's artwork pinned to the walls, the budget sheets taped above her desk, the stack of scholarship essays waiting to be reviewed. For the first time, he really saw the world she had built. Vanessa was right about one thing, he admitted. I've been living my life according to other people's expectations, going through the motions, pretending to be who I'm supposed to be instead of who I want to be. Imani's eyes narrowed. "And who do you want to be?" His voice was steady. "Someone worthy of you." Her heart stumbled, but she kept her face cautious. "Malik and I broke up with Vanessa," he said firmly. "And I told my father I won't pretend anymore. I'm done living for his approval." Her breath caught. "How did he take that?" "As expected. He threatened to cut me off, told me I was throwing away everything he built for me. But I told him maybe it's time I build something for myself." Imani searched his face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. Instead, she found determination. "This isn't going to be easy," she whispered. "Your world and mine, they don't exactly mix. Then maybe we build a new world, something that belongs to us." Against her better judgment, hope rose inside her. "You really broke up with Vanessa?" "I really did. And I really told my father I'm not living my life for him anymore. The only thing I regret is waiting so long to realize what I wanted." He reached across the desk, his eyes burning with sincerity. "Imani, you make me want to be better. You make me want to build something meaningful instead of just inheriting what's already here." Her defenses cracked. Slowly she placed her hands in his. "Okay, then let's see what happens when we stop worrying about everyone else and just fight for us." Relief and joy lit up his face. He leaned forward, pressing his lips softly to hers. A kiss full of promise, tender and real. For the first time in weeks, Imani allowed herself to believe in the possibility of love strong enough to bridge the distance between their worlds, but neither of them knew just how far Richard Johnson was willing to go. The war began quietly. First came a call to Howard University, where Richard, as a major donor, hinted at concerns over a student attracting unwanted media attention. Soon, Imani was summoned to meet with her academic advisor and reminded to maintain appropriate discretion while representing the university. Next, pressure mounted at the community center. The landlord, suddenly worried about media attention and foot traffic, announced that the subsidized rent would now rise to market rate. Then came the corporate sponsors. A major donor abruptly postponed their quarterly contribution, citing a review of charitable giving. By the third blow, Imani saw the pattern. Sitting with Malik in Piedmont Park watching the sunset streak the sky in orange and pink, she said flatly, "It's him, isn't it?" "Your father." Malik's jaw tightened. "I don't have proof, but it has his fingerprints all over it. He's trying to crush everything you've built to prove you can't survive in our world." He turned to face her fully. "The question is, what are we going to do about it?" For a long time, Imani watched children laughing on the playground nearby, their voices carrying across the park. Her chest rose and fell, her fists clenched in her lap. I could walk away, she said finally. End this now before he destroys everything I've worked for. Is that what you want? The answer burst out of her before she could stop it. No. The word burned with fire stronger than her fear. I'm not going to let some rich man with a god complex decide what I can and can't have. If he wants a fight, he'll get one. Malik's lips parted as he studied her face. What are you thinking? A slow, fierce smile spread across hers. I'm thinking it's time your father learned what happens when he tries to intimidate a girl from the West End. The very next morning, Imani walked into the towering glass headquarters of Johnson Technologies, wearing her best dress and carrying a thick folder of documents. The receptionist looked startled when she asked for a meeting with Richard Johnson. Do you have an appointment? No, Imani said evenly. But tell him I'm here to discuss his son's future. He'll want to see me. 20 minutes later, she sat across from Richard in his vast office, surrounded by polished mahogany and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Atlanta's skyline. He didn't bother standing when she entered. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his tailored suit immaculate, and his eyes as sharp as blades. Miss Carter, he said coolly, to what do I owe this unexpected visit? I think you already know, she replied. Richard leaned back in his chair. Let's save time. What's your price? Her brows knit. Excuse me? The amount it will take for you to walk away from my son. $250,000, half? I'm prepared to be generous if it means ending this quickly. Rage surged through Imani's chest, but her voice stayed calm. You think I'm here for money? That this has all been about trapping Malik? She opened her folder and slid it across the desk. Actually, I'm here to make you an offer. His eyes narrowed. You're making me an offer? I'm proposing a partnership. Johnson Technologies and New Dawn Foundation. Your company provides funding and technology. My organization provides community outreach and implementation. Together, we could transform after-school programming across Atlanta. I've prepared projections, program outlines, and measurable impacts. Richard flipped the folder open, glancing briefly at the detailed charts before smirking. And in exchange? Nothing. This isn't a trade. It's a business proposition with real financial and social returns. How remarkably naive, he sneered. You actually think I'm going to help you strengthen your position with my son? Imani held his gaze, her voice steady. I think you're underestimating me. I'm not some gold digger. I'm a woman with legitimate goals and the ability to achieve them, with or without your help. Richard's eyes darkened. You seem to be laboring under the delusion that you have power here. I could destroy your little foundation with one phone call. I could have you expelled from Howard. I could make sure no credible organization in this city ever works with you. You could try, Imani said firmly. But here's what you don't understand about people like me. We don't have safety nets, so we learn how to fly. We don't have family connections, so we build our own. We don't inherit wealth, so we learn how to create value from nothing. You can try to tear me down, but I will build again and again. And every time I do, I'll prove that Malik was right to choose someone who fights for what she believes in, over someone who accepts what's handed to her. For the first time, Richard's expression flickered, surprise breaking through the arrogance. I love your son, Imani continued, standing tall. Not his money, not his family's power. I love the man who listens when no one else does, the man who notices when I haven't eaten and makes sure I'm cared for, the man who wants to use his privilege to actually make a difference. That man exists despite your influence, not because of it. And if you keep trying to control him, you'll lose him completely. She closed the folder, turned toward the door, and added, The offer still stands. When you're ready to see me as a partner instead of a problem, we could do great things together. When the door closed behind her, Richard sat in silence, staring at the empty space where she had stood. It had been years since anyone had spoken to him with such direct honesty. Against his will, a trace of admiration flickered in his chest, but admiration was not surrender. That evening, Malik found Imani back at the foundation office. She told him about her meeting with his father, about the threats and the offer she had made. He listened, his expression shifting from shock to pride to concern. He's not going to give up, Malik said, pulling her close. Neither am I, Imani answered. You don't understand how stubborn I can be when someone tries to intimidate me. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. I'm not doing this because of you. I'm doing this because it's right. Your father needs to learn that people are not pawns on his chessboard. And if he escalates, she said fiercely, looking him in the eyes, then he'll learn what happens when a girl from the West End fights back. Malik pressed his forehead to hers, his arms tightening around her. Then we'll fight together. But even as they held each other, both knew this was only the beginning. Richard Johnson wasn't finished. He was just getting started. The first article hit on a Tuesday morning. A glossy tabloid headline screamed across the newsstands, "From West End to Gold Digger, who is Malik Johnson's new flame?" The piece was vicious. It painted Imani as a social climber, accused her of using tragic family circumstances to manipulate sympathy, and questioned the legitimacy of New Dawn Foundation. They even quoted anonymous sources who claimed she was more interested in money than in children. By Wednesday, the smear campaign had spread to mainstream outlets. An op-ed in the Atlanta Times asked whether Malik Johnson's inexperienced girlfriend could be a liability to Johnson Technologies. Social media exploded, her name trending alongside insults and cruel jokes. At the New Dawn office, volunteers whispered nervously. Parents called asking if their children were safe in her programs, and sponsors hesitated to renew their donations. The pressure mounted until Imani locked herself in the supply closet for 10 minutes just to breathe. When she emerged, Malik was waiting. His face was stormy, his phone still in his hand. "My father," he said flatly. "This has his fingerprints all over it. He's feeding the press these stories." Imani's voice trembled with anger. "He's not just coming after me. He's coming after my kids, my foundation, everything I've built. And the worst part is people believe him." "Then we'll fight back," Malik said fiercely. "We'll sue for defamation, hire a PR team, do interviews, whatever it takes." But Imani shook her head. "If we fight him on his terms, we'll lose. He has more money, more influence, more lawyers. We can't beat him in his arena." "Then what do you suggest?" She lifted her chin. "We tell the truth, my truth. Not through polished statements or lawyers, but directly to the people. If they're going to write about me, let them hear from me first." Malik frowned, uncertain. "You mean a press conference?" "Yes, tomorrow at the community center. Let them come and hear me, not the version your father pays for." The next day, cameras lined the street outside the West End Community Center. Reporters jostled for space, microphones outstretched, the air buzzing with curiosity. Inside, children played on the worn basketball court. Volunteers passed out snacks, and banners for New Dawn Foundation hung proudly. Imani stepped up to the podium, her heart hammering, Malik standing quietly at her side. She wore no designer gown, no polished jewels, just a simple navy dress and her natural hair in soft curls. "Thank you for being here," she began, her voice steady though her hands trembled slightly. "My name is Imani Carter. Some of you have seen the articles about me. I want to tell you who I really am." She spoke about losing her parents at 16, about her grandparents' sacrifices, about starting New Dawn to give kids the support she once needed. She admitted to her fears, her exhaustion, and her mistakes, but she spoke with fire and honesty that no smear campaign could erase. "I am not ashamed of where I come from," she declared. "The West End is my home. It made me strong. And if that makes me less acceptable in certain circles, so be it. I am here for the children who deserve a future, not for approval from people who've never walked in my shoes." The reporters scribbled furiously. Cameras flashed. Malik watched her with awe as she continued. "And as for my relationship with Malik Johnson," she added, her voice firm, "that is not a business arrangement. It is not a publicity stunt. It is simply two people who found each other in a world determined to keep them apart. I can't promise we'll be perfect, but I can promise we'll be real." The room erupted with questions, but Imani stepped back, refusing to be dragged into their frenzy. Malik reached for her hand as they left the podium together, their fingers intertwined, their unity undeniable. That evening, clips of her speech flooded social media. Hashtags praising her courage trended higher than the smear stories. Parents she had helped came forward with testimonials. Volunteers posted photos, and students shared stories about how New Dawn had changed their lives. Slowly, the narrative began to shift, but Richard Johnson was far from finished. Inside his office, he watched the press conference replay on his tablet, his jaw tightening. Across from him, Vanessa Brooks leaned casually against the desk, her arms crossed. "She's good," Vanessa admitted reluctantly. "Better than I expected." "She's dangerous," Richard corrected coldly. "If Malik continues down this path, she could ruin everything." Vanessa tilted her head. "Then maybe it's time I step in again." After all, if she wants to play in your world, she'll have to face me on my terms. Richard's silence was answer enough. A week after the press conference, Imani sat at her desk surrounded by stacks of donation letters. The storm had calmed slightly, and support for New Dawn was slowly rebuilding. Yet beneath the surface she felt uneasy, as if waiting for the next blow. That blow arrived in the form of a phone call. Imani Carter? The voice on the other end was smooth, professional. This is Atlanta Daily. We've received photographs of your boyfriend, Malik Johnson, attending a private dinner with Vanessa Brooks. Would you like to comment? Imani's grip on the phone tightened. What did you just say? We're running the story tomorrow. Malik Johnson seen with his former flame, the night before your press conference. She ended the call without responding, her chest tight with dread. Within minutes, the photos appeared online. Grainy but damning, they showed Malik sitting across from Vanessa at an upscale midtown restaurant. In one frame, she leaned across the table, her hand brushing his. Imani's phone lit up with notifications. Texts from Tay, from volunteers, from donors asking if it was true. Her heart sank. When Malik arrived at the foundation office that evening, she didn't let him speak right away. She held up her phone, the photo glowing between them. Explain. It's not what it looks like, Malik said quickly, his voice urgent. Vanessa asked to meet. She said she wanted to talk about leaving you alone, about ending the drama. I thought if I listened, maybe she'd back off. And the touching? She leaned across the table. I pulled away. It's a setup, Imani. She called the press before I even got there. You have to believe me. Her chest rose and fell, her voice trembling. Do you know how this makes me look? After everything I said at that press conference, after standing up for us, this makes me look like a fool. You're not a fool, Malik pleaded. You're the only person who's ever seen me for who I really am. Please don't let her win. The fury in Imani's heart battled with the memory of his sincerity, the way he had fought for her against his father. Slowly, she let out a long breath. If you ever let her come between us again, Malik, I'm gone. Do you understand me? Yes, he said without hesitation. I swear it will never happen again. Days later, Vanessa herself appeared on a popular Atlanta talk show. With perfect poise, she smiled at the camera and said, I wish Malik the best, but it's clear he's caught in something complicated. I just hope whoever he chooses, it's someone who understands the responsibilities of his position. Her words dripped with fake sympathy, but the implication was clear. Imani was not enough. Watching from her grandparents' living room, Imani felt the anger rise all over again. But this time, instead of despair, she felt fire. She turned to Grandma Ruth and Grandpa James, her voice firm. If she thinks she can outshine me by playing polished and perfect, then she's underestimating what real honesty can do. Grandma Ruth smiled knowingly. Baby, you already proved yourself once. Don't let this woman shake you. You've survived worse than a jealous socialite. Meanwhile, Malik faced his father again. Richard sat behind his massive desk, the tabloid photos spread across it. You're destroying your reputation, Richard said coldly. You could have had Vanessa, educated, polished, ready to support you. Instead, you cling to this girl from the West End. She will drag you down. No, Malik said firmly. She lifts me up. She makes me want to be more than the man you trained me to be. And if you can't see that, then that's your blindness, not mine. For once, Richard was silent. His son's conviction rattled him, though he refused to show it. That night, Malik went to Imani's office again. The weight of the world hung between them, but when she looked into his eyes, she saw only truth. He cupped her face in his hands. I choose you, Imani, every time. Against my father, against Vanessa, against the whole damn city if I have to. Tears stung her eyes as she whispered, Then we'll fight together. And for the first time, Malik kissed her not with hesitation or fear, but with certainty, a kiss that told her he was done being divided, a kiss that sealed their decision to face the storm as one. The days that followed were brutal. Vanessa's interview kept circulating, fueling whispers that Malik would eventually return to her. The tabloids dissected every glance between him and Imani, twisting them into narratives of tension and weakness. But amid the noise, something unexpected began to happen. Imani's phone started buzzing with messages, not from critics, but from people she had helped. Former students wrote on social media about how New Dawn Foundation had changed their lives. Parents posted photos of their children in tutoring sessions, thanking Imani for giving them hope. Volunteers defended her tirelessly, countering every smear with real stories of impact. Slowly, the tide turned again. One evening, Imani stood in the community center gym, watching a group of kids rehearse a dance routine for their upcoming fundraiser. Laughter filled the room, their joy a reminder of why she had started all of this. At her side, Malik slipped his hand into hers. "You see this?" he said quietly. "This is proof. They can't break you, Imani, because you've built something real." She leaned into him, grateful for his steadiness. "I just wish your father could see it too." Across town, in the high-rise offices of Johnson Technologies, Richard Johnson sat at his desk, staring at yet another article praising Imani's resilience. The public was beginning to admire her grit, her determination to stand tall despite relentless attacks. Investors were asking questions, wondering aloud if Johnson Technologies should be aligning itself with this rising young leader instead of dismissing her. Richard's grip tightened on the newspaper. Unexpectedly, Vanessa Brooks appeared at his office again, looking less confident than before. "It's not working," she admitted. "No matter what I do, she keeps turning the story around. People love her." Richard's eyes narrowed. "And Malik? He's unwavering. I've never seen him like this. She's changed him." For the first time, doubt flickered across Richard's expression. Back at New Dawn, support poured in. Donations began to climb, small contributions from ordinary families who wanted to stand behind Imani. Even one or two corporate sponsors quietly returned, unwilling to be seen opposing someone the public was starting to champion. At the fundraiser that weekend, the community center overflowed with families, volunteers, and children dressed in their best. Imani stood backstage, nerves fluttering as she prepared to address the crowd. Malik squeezed her hand. "You've got this," he whispered, echoing the words she had once told herself at the gala. When she stepped onto the stage, applause thundered through the gym. She looked out at the crowd, grandparents, teachers, young children beaming with excitement, and her voice rose strong and steady. 3 years ago, I started New Dawn with nothing but a dream. Tonight, looking at all of you, I realize I was never alone. This foundation doesn't belong to me. It belongs to all of us. Together, we're proving that no matter where you come from, no matter how many people doubt you, dreams can survive." The crowd roared with approval, and Malik, watching from the side, felt pride swell in his chest. But in the far corner of the room, Richard Johnson stood silently, arms crossed, his face unreadable. He had come unannounced, curious to see the girl who had so completely captured his son's loyalty and defied his power. As he watched children run onto the stage, performing with joy and confidence, something in his hardened expression shifted, just slightly. Imani didn't notice him at first, but when she finally caught sight of him standing in the shadows, her heart skipped. She met his gaze, refusing to flinch, and for the first time, Richard didn't look at her with contempt. He looked at her with something closer to respect, though he would never admit it aloud. That night, as the fundraiser drew to a close, Malik wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You're unstoppable," he murmured. "I'm just getting started," she replied softly, determination in her eyes. And in the distance, Richard Johnson left the building quietly, his thoughts unsettled. For all his power, for all his control, he had not been able to silence her. And deep down, he began to wonder if perhaps he had underestimated Imani Carter after all. The fundraiser's success carried into the following weeks. Donations poured in, volunteers doubled, and for the first time, New Dawn Foundation had the resources to expand beyond the West End. Local news stations ran positive features, celebrating Imani's resilience and vision. Her story became a symbol of hope, and people across Atlanta began rooting for her. Yet despite the growing wave of support, Richard Johnson remained silent. Malik worried about the tension building, but Imani refused to let it consume her. "We keep moving forward," she told him one night as they walked through the park hand in hand. "If your father wants to fight, let him. But if he wants to watch, he'll see that nothing he does can stop us." Days later, Malik received an unexpected message. His father wanted him to come to the office. He hesitated, unsure if it was another trap, but something in the tone of the message felt different. When Malik arrived, Richard wasn't alone. To his surprise, Imani sat across from his father, calm and poised. She had received the same message, and though she had doubts, she came anyway. Richard studied them both, his hands folded on the desk. I underestimated you, Miss Carter, he admitted finally. His voice carried no warmth, but it lacked the scorn it once held. I thought you were a distraction, but it seems you are. More than that. Imani held his gaze steadily. I told you before, I'm not here to use Malik, I'm here to build something real. And if you can't see the value in that, then that's your loss. Richard exhaled slowly, leaning back in his chair. My world has always been about control. About planning every move. But watching you, I see that control only goes so far. You've built something out of nothing. That takes strength. Malik's brows furrowed. So what are you saying? Richard's eyes flicked to his son. I'm saying that while I don't approve of everything, I will no longer stand in your way. If this is what you want, then you will have to prove yourselves on your own merits. I won't interfere further. It wasn't an embrace, it wasn't a blessing, but it was the closest Richard Johnson had ever come to surrender. Later, outside the skyscraper, Malik pulled Imani into his arms, his voice low and full of wonder. You did it. You stood up to him and he backed down. I've never seen anyone do that. Imani smiled softly. Maybe he finally realized that love isn't weakness. It's the strongest thing we have. Their story spread beyond Atlanta. National outlets covered the young woman from the West End who had faced down power, prejudice, and scandal to protect her foundation and her love. Invitations poured in for speaking engagements, partnerships, and collaborations. New Dawn Foundation became a movement, not just a local program. One evening, months later, Imani stood at another gala, this time not as an outsider trembling at the edge of the room, but as a keynote speaker celebrated by all. The chandeliers sparkled above her as she delivered her speech, and Malik watched from the crowd, his eyes filled with pride. When she finished, the room erupted in applause louder than ever before. She caught Malik's gaze across the ballroom and he mouthed, I love you. As the night ended, they stepped outside together, the city lights glowing like stars around them. Malik wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pressing a kiss to her temple. You know, he whispered, that first night at the Peachtree Grand when you nearly fainted and I caught you. I had no idea you'd end up catching me too. Imani laughed softly, leaning into him. We caught each other, and as they walked hand in hand through the streets of Atlanta, their future stretched wide before them, not defined by his wealth or her struggles, but by the love and determination they had chosen to fight for together.